all financial transaction activity are included in the financial activity of the company, just like dividend distribution, interest to service, raising fresh debt, issue corporate bonds, or they are getting any interest from this company. Okay, so this is the basic overview of the financial statement.
Nisheeth requires no introduction as though. He's quite active in the groups. Everybody knows him. So he's a consultant physician and intensivist in Valsad, Gujarat, and he has his own hospital, Sri Hospital, and additionally he was a position of director at Nisheeth Hospital. But he has a very good knack of management of finances and business, and we have seen him grow the last 2-3 years phenomenally. So that I'll request him to share whatever he has known or whatever he has learned, or with a lot of mistakes and a lot of efforts, so that life is easy for all of you. Yes, Nisheeth.
Hello everyone. I just want to know from our members that how many of you are aware of these financial terms, and how many of are not actually, so that I can have idea how to proceed with this presentation, because we have very technical terms in this presentation for understanding the basic financial statement. This is from the general perspective of any company. If you are running, or if we can say this hospital, okay, अगर आपका स्मॉल हॉस्पिटल भी है 15-20 बेड का, तो भी ये सब चीजें तो आएंगी ही आएंगी, ठीक है। अगर प्रोपराइटर है तो आप जब भी आपका आईटीआर फाइल करेंगे तो आपके सीए ने ये सब बना के भेजा ही होगा, पीएनएल स्टेटमेंट, बैलेंस शीट वगैरह, वो सब आपको शायद वो पता नहीं है नहीं है, पता नहीं है वो, ठीक है। So MV Sitharaman is know the financial projections, and Dr. Pedali, I don't know. Okay, so basically any financial statement has a 3 basic component, that is the profit and loss statement, balance sheet, and cash flow statement. Now profit and loss statement, what includes in that is the revenue versus expense, कि आपने कहाँ पे आपका पैसा कहाँ से आ रहा है और आपका पैसा कितना खर्च हो रहा है, ठीक है, वो आपको यहाँ से पता चलेगा, ठीक है। दूसरा आएगा बैलेंस शीट आएगा। बैलेंस शीट में आएगा कि आपका एसेट और लायबिलिटी क्या क्या है। एसेट मतलब वो भी एनीथिंग दैट यू हैव ओन, आपके पास कोई भी चीज अपने खुद से परचेस की हुई है, दैट इज कॉल्ड एसेट। और लायबिलिटी है कि जो आपको चीजें दूसरों को देनी है, दैट इज द लायबिलिटी। एंड थर्ड थिंग इज दैट द कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट, कि कैश फ्लो आ रहा है तो कैश फ्लो कौन कौन सी जगह से आ रहा है, ठीक है। तो the 3 component of cash flow statement is cash from the operating activity, cash from the investing activity, and cash from the financing activity. We will go detail in all these things one by one. So first thing, I want to make sure that you know about there's the accounting system called cash system and the accrual system. So first thing is cash system, in which you sell some product and you get immediate money. That is the cash system. In the accrual system, you can see that you have sold the product, but the customer haven't paid you the money. Okay. And you will get money after the end of a month or 2 months. Just like you have a account of, we can say, on the grocery store nearby, who is your known, and you used to pay these monthly expenses. आप जो भी खरीद रहे हैं, whatever you are purchasing from that store in a month, you are paying with a single amount at the end of the month. That is the accrual. So अगर आप देखना चाहेंगे, if you see that the revenue portion, okay. So now first we will go into the profit and loss statement. Which are the components that we got into the profit and loss statement? First thing you will get, that is the revenue of the company. Okay. If that was the annual report, that was counted as a yearly. If it is a on the quarterly basis, company used to produce or the publish the result on every quarter, every 3 months. Okay, so whether you have to check it whether it is yearly or quarterly, that is revenue of the company. Okay, in that section you will get the total sales of the product, how much uh, uh, money is company making from the sales of the product. Second thing is the sales of the service and the other operating revenue. So total operating revenue is sales of the product, sales of the service, and other operating revenues. Sales of the service means the company which are taking the maintenance charges. If you will say you have purchased a lift and you are paying AMC of some amount of the rupees, that is included in the sales of the service from that company point of view. Now, there is a one thing is that excise duty that has been paid to the government. So net sales is a sales minus excise duty. So we won't go into the much detail of this all these things, but have a good look at this. In the revenue of the company segment, you will get the sales of the product, sales of the service, and the other operating revenues. All these things we will correlate it with the one of the good hospital company, that is Narayan Rudralaya, and we will correlate all these things in this financial statement from this. Okay. Now, second portion, if you are running any company, you have some expenses to run that company. Okay, so which are the expenses? That is called COGS, cost of goods sold, or the expenses incurred to generate the revenue. Now, we have the first thing is that cost of material consumed. So this is the basic all over industry wise, little bit different in the healthcare scenario. We will discuss that later on. Okay, the cost of the material consumed, purchase of stock in trade, मतलब आप जो भी खरीद रहे हैं कुछ भी प्रोडक्ट आपने खरीदा, दैट इज अ कॉस्ट क्या है उसका, ठीक है। नाउ परचेज ऑफ स्टॉक इन ट्रेड का मतलब क्या होता है कि दे एड द कॉस्ट व्हेन दे मैनेज टू सेल द एक्चुअली प्रोडक्ट। Okay, जब वो प्रोडक्ट when they sell the product, at that time they add the cost, otherwise they won't add the cost. Little bit complicated here, but in this section I will explain this in the Narayan Rudralaya statement. What is this meaning of this? This is the changes in the inventory of the finished good. Finished good मतलब प्रोडक्ट तैयार हो चुका है, ठीक है, उनके पास पड़ा है। तो what will be the significance of this is negative number of the inventories indicate that company is producing more products than it managed to sell. So if we see in the healthcare sector, they have a negative side of inventory, means they have a more purchase of stocks like the consumables, pines, IV set, or we can say these surgical materials. If they have a negative side, they have a good pile of stock which they are not consuming over the period of 1 year. Now another thing is the employee benefit expense. Okay, whatever the employee, their salary, PF and other fund and staff welfare expenses, that is included in this employee benefit expense. Now, the fifth portion is the finance cost. That is the interest. If a company has taken a loan from bank or other non-banking finance company, they have to pay the interest cost or the other cost. Okay, that is the finance cost. Depreciation and amortization. Now, depreciation is what is that? That is the asset depreciates over its useful life. मतलब आप whatever you are purchasing every year, it has a decreased value over the if you can say every year you have a decreased value of 10% over your house or your bike, anything is that. That has been you can depreciate it from the account statement. Now we have got two types of asset, that is the tangible asset and the intangible asset. Tangible asset, that is one in the physical form and provides the economic value to the company, just like plant, machinery, laptop, buildings, land, etc. The intangible assets, are the ones which doesn't have a physical form but still provides an economic value to the company, just like brand value. If you can say Apple iPhone, that is a brand value for them. Trademarks, you can say. Patents in the pharma companies, many companies have patent and copyright. And the franchisee model, if you can see this KFC or McDonald's, they have a franchisee model. So they have that intangible asset of the brand value. So they can also, this amortization is the depreciation of the intangible asset. For tangible asset, it called depreciation. For intangible asset, it called amortization. And the other expenses, apart from that, any expense mentioned above, they have the manufacturing expense, selling expense, travel expenses, donation, maintenance, promotional active expenses, advertisement expenses. All this has been included in the other expenses. I think everything is clear to each and every member up till now. Please do write in the chat box if you have any query or if you do not understand anything, so that you don't get confused and lose the track in this presentation. I think, am I clear?
Yes,
Everybody?
you're doing good.
Okay. Now, the third thing is the profit before tax. Okay. This is total operating revenue minus this is total operating expense. This minus this. And apart from that, some exceptional item is there. So, exceptional item means what? This is the unexpected income occurring at the odd time for the company and which company doesn't foresee these as a recurring expense. अगर मान लो कि आपके कहीं पे आपको पता है कि आपके हॉस्पिटल में कुछ है, ठीक है, आपको हर हर महीने ये आपको रेंट देना होता है, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी का बिल देना होता है, लेकिन सडनली ऑन 1 month यू हैव टू पे सम एक्स्ट्रा एक्सपेंसेस दैट यू डोंट सी and that you are not expecting every month. That is called as a exceptional item. After removing these revenue, removing these expenses from the revenue, you got the profit before tax. After that comes the holy grail of the all financial system, that is the profit after tax, PAT, or the net profit. That is the profit after deducting all the tax and the liabilities. That is the net profit of the company. Now this is the earnings per share. This is also a good metric to evaluate the earnings growth of the company, whether this company is growing or not. This total outstanding shares are available in the market, and a total earnings from the company is getting. Okay, earning capacity if the company on the per share basis. मान लो कि कंपनी के 1000 शेयर मार्केट में है और कंपनी 10,000 का रेवेन्यू जनरेट कर रही है, ठीक है, या फिर प्रॉफिट जनरेट कर रही है, देन द अर्निंग पर शेयर इज 10. ओके, एक शेयर पे हाउ मच कंपनी इज अर्निंग फ्रॉम द वन शेयर ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर शेयर. That is the basic understanding of earning per share. That is the profit and loss statement. I think everyone is clear. If anyone has any queries, please do let me know in the comment box. Now, coming on the balance sheet side. On balance sheet side, we have seen that there are the two segments are there, liabilities and the equity segment and the asset segment. So one principle of this balance sheet is that asset is always equal to the liabilities. On the both side of the asset and the liability should be equal at the end of the computation and the calculation. Now, what is liabilities? This is the company's obligation or the loan basically, and they are expected to give some economic value. That means company has taken some loan for their running their businesses. मान लो कि they have taken a loan of 100 rupees, but they are generating 200 rupees revenue from their 100 rupees loan. So that is the good thing. That gives the expected to give the economic value. Now, the shareholders fund. If you invest in the equity markets and that is your shareholders fund, that is the company's liability. Okay. Another thing is the non-current liabilities and the current liabilities. Non-current liabilities is the long-term obligations. that has to be settled more than 1 year after the reporting of the period. So any long-term borrowings, कहीं से भी loan लिया है, company has taken any long-term borrowings, okay, any deferred tax liabilities or the any long-term provisions they have kept for the employee benefit, gratuity, leave encashment, provident fund, etc., or any capex. So that comes into the non-current liabilities. Now, in the current liabilities, this is a short-term obligation for less than year, and these all liabilities has to be settled within less than year. Okay, though this is a short-term borrowings. They are undertaken by the company to meet the day-to-day cash requirements, that is the working capital requirements. Second thing is the trade payables, the account payables. So company has purchased something from some vendor, but they don't have paid the money. So that comes into the trades payable. Other current liabilities and then the short-term provisions, as we have seen in the long-term provisions. In the shareholders fund, they have basically one is share capital, reserve, and the surplus. Most of the companies have some reserves, like they have capital reserve, security premium reserve, and the general reserve. Okay, they are the this capital reserve is the amount belong to the shareholders, but the company cannot distribute to them. This capital reserve can be used for the further expansion capabilities or the future capex and any other things. So this is on the liability side. Now coming on the asset side, what is owned by the company that is expected to give the economic value to the company. Same as in the liability, in the asset segment also, non-current asset and the current asset. In the non-current asset, they have the more than 1 year. That is the fixed asset. Just like they cannot be converted to cash easily actually, the non-current assets. They are tangible assets like plant, machinery, laptops, buildings, lands, etc. Intangible asset, as we have seen, that brands, trademarks, value, patented, copyrights, franchisee model. Okay. Now, gross block is whenever company buys an asset, that is called gross block. A company, if company has purchased some land for 100 crores, that is the gross block. But after the 5 years, after removing the depreciation, what that amount is remaining is net block. That is the gross block minus accumulated depreciation. Now, capital work in progress. So, what is this? So, capital work in progress is work that has not been complete, but capital expenditure has already incurred. Company has spent some money for this making some product, but the product is not complete yet. Okay. So, that is the capital work in progress. Then intangible asset under development. Just like a company or some pharma company or hospital has doing some research for some procedures or any other drug molecule.
Can I do full screen?
Just wait. Now it is okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So for intangible asset, for the capital work in progress, if company or any company is doing any research and development, they have incurred the expenses, but the result is not out there yet. They are developing some molecule for cancer treatment or for some drug or for the diabetes or anything is that. They have done the expenses. They have given money to those researchers, but the result is not out there. That is the intangible asset under development. This is the non-current investment. Equity share buying, stake in the other companies, debenture, mutual funds, whatever cash they are buying or the anything they are buying, that comes in the non-current asset. Long-term loans and advances that company has given loan to the some other persons. So that is the other non-current assets. In the current asset, there is a short-term asset for less than 1 year. It can be converted to cash easily. And these foresees the situation of consuming these assets within a year and used to fund the day-to-day operation and the ongoing expenses. Just like inventories. Inventories includes the all finished good manufactured by the company but not sold, raw material in stock, and the incomplete goods. Now, trade receivable and account receivable. This is the thing what we have discussed in the first segment of the accrual and the cash accounting concept. So, in the first segment of profit and loss, company has suppose company has sold the material of worth rupees 100 rupees. Okay, but company ko at that time they have got only 80 rupees. So the 20 rupees remaining that has not been paid by the customers, okay, that is included in the trade receivable or the account receivable. So that also we have to keep in mind. सेल्स ग्रोथ ज्यादा है मतलब कंपनी हर साल 1,000 करोड़ का अगर सेल्स कर रही है, लेकिन इफ द कंपनी इज नॉट गेटिंग द इनफ अमाउंट फ्रॉम देयर कस्टमर, इट इज नॉट अ गुड साइन एक्चुअली. The cash and bank balance. This is the most liquid asset. So cash on hand, they can encash anytime in case of the emergency. This short-term loan and advances. If company has given some loan to the other employee, or they have some advance tax payment, or the advance to suppliers, or loan to the customers, any other things. So this includes the balance sheet portion. I think everyone is clear about this segment. Now coming to the cash flow segment. Now from the cash flow segment, we have cash from operating activity, cash from financing activity, and cash from the investing activity. So cash from operating activity is the positive cash flow from the operating activity. Company, whatever company is doing their primary business from sales or the maintenance or the services, whatever money is coming from the company side, that is cash from the operating activity. Now, cash from the investing activity, as we can see that if company invest in some uh, other business segment, or for purchasing some assets, or purchasing some land or plant or machinery or any R&D, okay, that is the from the investing activities. And cash from the financial activity is basically company has invested some amount in the FD, and they are getting some interest yearly on yearly basis. That is come under the cash from the financial activity. So liabilities and cash have a linear relationship. If we can see that the liabilities as increases, cash will increase. As from the asset side, as the asset is increases, cash will decrease. Okay. So now coming back to the cash flow statement, these are the three activities that company basically do: operational activity, investing activity, and the financial activity. In the operational activity, that is directly related to the core business operation. Okay, that is sales, manufacturing, marketing, tech update, and hiring resources. Agar if we say about the hospital businesses, the primary income they are getting from the patient's treatment portion. Okay, so that is the core business. Now this is the investment activity. Investment company makes with the intention to reaping at a later age. Just like we invest in some mutual fund or equity share market or any other investment tools, that company also doing the same. Just like in the interested bearing instrument, equity shares, land, property, plant and equipment, tangible asset or intangible assets, that is thing. And from financial activity, all financial transaction activity are included in the financial activity of the company, just like dividend distribution, interest to service, raising fresh debt, issue corporate bonds, or they are getting any interest from this company. Okay, so this is the basic overview of the financial statement. This is the profit and loss statement of the Narayan Rudralaya hospital chain of the financial year 2023 as on the March 31st. So is we can see that company has income of revenue from the operation is 45,247 millions. Okay. And other income is 654. The total income is 45,902. So now they have enlisted the all expenses. This purchase of medical consumable, changes in the inventories, employee benefit expenses, professional fee to doctor, other expenses. And they have written a note number here. Okay, 23, 24, 20, 25, 26. So if you want to deep dive into this each and every segment, you can further read those notes. I will show you. Okay, first let us understand the basic concept. Okay, so this is the income that we got 45,902 millions, and this is the expenses list of the all expenses they have. Okay, so total expenses is these 38,384 millions. So profit before tax, okay, that is 7,517. This is the profit before tax. So company has revenue of 45,902 millions. For that, they have total expense of 38,384 millions. So profit before tax is comes 7,510. Okay. And after that, they have paid some tax. The total tax expense is 1,450 million. So what is the net profit of the year? That is 6,056.66. Okay. So overall, company has made almost 606 crores in the last financial year. And if we compare that from the March 2022, company has almost doubled the net profit from 3,421 millions to 6,065 millions. Okay. So what basically changed here? So they have a very much good revenue. Revenue is around hardly 37,000 to 45,000. So 8,000. If we can see that hardly 37, 8, around 40% जितना increase हुआ है, लेकिन the net profit is jumped almost double. So these are the total financial things. I think you can avoid those things. So what is the last thing we have seen, that the earnings per share. Okay, earnings per share is 29.85. For each share of the company, company is earning 29 rupees per share. Okay, so this is the basic overview of the profit and loss statement. Okay, so as I was talking about these notes, if we can see that this is the notes segment, I can so if we go to these notes from the annual report, they have clearly diversified the revenue. That's the income from the medical and healthcare services, sale of the medical consumable and drugs, and other operating revenue that is coming from the other healthcare services. That is the refer to note number 53. You have to read that note. I have read that they have some collaboration with some company for the planning and the execution of the hospital management, and for that they are taking this charge. So this is coming under the operating revenue. This is teleradiology income and income from the patient's amenity. So this is the total revenue they are getting, 45,247 from all these categories. Now, this is the cash and credit. Okay. Now, this is the nature of the treatment. How much revenue they are getting from the inpatient and how much they are getting from the on the OPD basis, and sale of the medical and the consumable and the drugs. That is the thing. Now, this is the, if we can see that other income, that is the interest on the bank deposit and others, interest income from the financial asset at the amortized cost. Export incentive they are getting, they are getting the grant income, profit on sale of the investment, foreign exchange gain, income from the derecognition of the financial lease, and miscellaneous income. So this is the inventories of the medical consumable, drugs, surgical instrument increase in the decrease. So if we can see that the increase is a negative side, whatever written in the bracket, that is the negative side. So at the end of the year, they have a negative 1110. So last year also negative 115 million amount of the rupees inventories were there. So they have getting more inventories than they are using actually. Now this is the total bifurcation of their expenses. Now this is the other expenses, as we can see that the power fluid, general expenses, housekeeping, welfare, medical gas, rent expenses, biomedical waste. This is the administrative expenses. Okay, so all these are the expenses they are uh, occurring. Okay, so this is the actual snapshot of the profit and loss statement, how you are getting. Okay. So now on the balance sheet side, as we have seen that the balance sheet side, we have generally got asset and the liabilities. So these are the assets and these are the equity and the liabilities. So if you can see that the asset and the liabilities both are the equal exact number, that should be matched equally on the both side of the asset and the liabilities. So if you can see that the company has a non-current asset of, that is a more than 1 year long-term asset, property, plant, equipment of 19,227 million. So each and everything is written in the statement. Non-current asset में क्या क्या आएगा? Property, plant, equipments, capital work in progress, right of use asset, goodwill का they have got goodwill asset, intangible asset they have got around 1,656 millions, intangible asset under development, that you have to read this note number 4 from the other segment. Investment in associate financial asset, that like they have done investment of 5 million in some other companies. They have given loans to the some people of 820 millions. Other financial as income tax asset. Okay, so these are the all non-current assets. The total non-current asset is 28,681 million worth rupees. Now in the current asset, we have seen the inventories. This is the financial asset. This is investment, trade receivable. So this is the trade receivable. कंपनी ने सेल्स में जो भी अमाउंट बताया है वो टोटल उन्होंने बताया है, ठीक है, लेकिन टोटल में से दो दे हैवंट गॉट दिस 4,315 million rupees from their customers, either from the government agencies or the TP agencies on the non cashless segment, और फ्रॉम द माका का जो भी चल रहा है और सीजीएमएस स्कीम है, सीजीएचएस, उसमें से उनका पैसा डिले हो रहा है, तो दैट विल ऑल रिफ्लेक्ट इन दिस trade receivables. So they will get this money in this 1 year. That is the basic concept of the non-current asset. So this is the that completes the asset. Now, if we can see that the equity and the liabilities, equity share capital is the shareholders' money, and in the liability segment, we can see that the non-current liabilities of the, they have borrowings of around 6,264 millions. Okay, they have kept provision of something 351 millions, that had to be looked in the 20 number segment, what they have kept the provisions. And in the total non-current liabilities are 10,423. In the financial liabilities, in the current liabilities, they have a short-term borrowing of 1,358 million. So they have to pay this much amount in their current financial year before 2024 completion. This is the trade payables. If a company has to pay to the some customer or the advances for the any agencies, that is included in this trade payable segment. So this is the total current liability. So asset and the liabilities are matched on the both sides. Okay. So this is the balance sheet. This is the profit and loss statement. And this is the total cash flow. This is the cash flow statement. This is the cash from operating activities, operating cash flow before working capital charges. And after that, here comes the cash from investing activities and the cash from the financing activities. Cash from investing activities are generally goes out from the company's balance sheet, so it is generally negative. And cash from the operating activities is generally positive because they are getting into the company. So if we go into the detail of these things, you can better understand which are the cash flow is company is getting from where, and from this the cash flow in which segment company is investing. If we can see that the cash flow from investing activity, they have acquisition of property, plant, equipment of around 5,220 millions. Proceeds from the sales of the property, they have got some money around 9 millions from the sales of the property. They have investment in the convertible debentures of 800 millions. They have payment made towards the acquisition of Shiva and Shiva Orthopedic Hospital, around 2,000 millions, around 200 crores का उन्होंने they have some hospital acquisition. They have purchase of some mutual fund, and they have got some this amount of money from the sale of the mutual fund. So this is the holy grail of the company's snapshot of the financial statement. This is income tax asset. Is this what company has to take back the actually मुझे भी बहुत ज्यादा डिटेल में पता नहीं है, लेकिन जितना भी मैंने कुछ पढ़ा है उसमें है कि generally these companies have to pay the advance taxes in the to the government. So and they have some deferred tax liabilities that has to be not paid to the government. So अगर उनको कहीं पे अगर वापस लेना है वो टैक्स का रिबेट, that comes include under the income tax asset actually. Now from these all these data points that we have got, okay, so what we'll basically do is this: how we can know that whether this company is good or not, and whether it has company has this some competitive advantage over their competitors or not. So for that, they have some made ratios by using all these metrics. First thing, why ratios? Because it gives you analysis for the interpretation of the all these segment of these, we can say, expenses, sales growth, and all these things, and it will give you idea about the trend for where company is going. Okay, and over the 5 years whether company is improving or not. For that we need to check. And for the versus competition, how companies are good against the competitors. Okay, so that is the basically thing. We can assess the current situation of the company, and we can also see the future prospectus. The whether trend will change, will be there, or it may be consistent. And what will be changed? The margins may be changed, some expenses may occur, profitability may increase. Agar, if we can say that if any company is having a sales of 100 rupees for the past 5 years, and company is having expense of around 50 rupees, so net to net company is getting 50 rupees in hand. Okay, but what happens in a year that some unexpected expenses that come, so their profitability will be decreased, then their operating profit margin will also decrease. So how we will judge that? we will judge by these ratios. So basically these are the 5 types of ratios are there. Activity ratio, liquidity ratio, solvency ratio, profitability and valuation. So activity ratio are the ratios which are the ones must compare with the company's peers over the years for the same company. ये एक्टिविटी मतलब कंपनी जो भी एक्टिविटी करती है, ठीक है, उसका रेशियो जो भी है वो हमको कंपेयर करना है, ठीक है। हम बहुत ज्यादा डिटेल में नहीं जाएंगे, ठीक है, जस्ट यू विल हैव दिस overview because it's little bit much more into the finance and you have to understand all these things. But this days sales outstanding receivable days, that average how many days company is getting back their money, that is the receivable days. This is the payable turnover ratio that gives the idea of speed at which company pay its suppliers or vendors. That means the higher the ratio is faster the payment. This is the inventory turnover ratio, that how fast inventory turn into the product or sold measures a company has sold and replaced inventory. मतलब कंपनी कितनी जल्दी कुछ नया प्रोडक्ट बना के, मान लो कंपनी के पास 1000 करोड़ का इक्विपमेंट है, ठीक है, और उसमें से वो 2000 करोड़ का प्रोडक्ट बेच रही है, तो उसका इन्वेंटरी टर्नओवर रेशियो हो जाएगा 2 टाइम्स, ठीक है। तो सेम कंपनी ने 1000 करोड़ में से नेक्स्ट ईयर सिर्फ 1500 का ही माल बेचा, तो उसका इन्वेंटरी टर्नओवर रेशियो कम हुआ है। सो दैट कैन गिव यू आइडिया अबाउट, या तो फिर उनका डिमांड कम हो गया है या तो फिर उनका मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कैपेसिटी दे हैव रिड्यूस एक्चुअली। दिस इज द रिसीवेबल टर्नओवर रेशियो, दिस हाउ मेनी टाइम्स कंपनी रिसीवेबल्स कन्वर्टेड इनटू द कैश। मतलब रिसीवेबल में जो भी मनी यू आर गेटिंग, वेदर इज कंपनी इज गेटिंग बैक एज अ कैश और नॉट, दैट इज द मेन थिंग। नाउ डेज पेएबल आउटस्टैंडिंग इतना सा कोई सिग्निफिकेंस नहीं है। वर्किंग कैपिटल साइकिल इज अ very good ratio to understand, that signifies how many times a year company is able to convert working capital into the revenue. Working capital का हमने पढ़ा है, we have seen that what is the working capital, that company has already done some expenses for making the product, okay. So after doing this expenses of some amount say 100 rupees, उनमें से 100 रुपीज का जो उन्होंने इन्वेस्टमेंट किया है वर्किंग कैपिटल में, उनका वो रेवेन्यू में से कितना जल्दी वो टर्नओवर कर पा रहे हैं, ठीक है। सो what does this signifies, that if the ratio is 4, that means the company is generating 4 rupees revenue for the each 1 rupees of working capital. So better the working capital cycle, better the profitability or the better the sales growth of the company. Now total asset and fixed asset turnover ratio are the same. When we have to see this total assets के against उनका revenue कितना हो रहा है, and in the fixed asset we have to see that the fixed asset के और against में उनका how much revenue they are getting. So this is the profitability ratio. These are the some important metrics है. This is EBITDA margin or the operating profit margin. EBITDA margin is that is the earning before interest, taxes, depreciation and amortization. Okay. We have seen that in the financial statement that there is a revenue, after that comes the expenses, after that comes the interest payment, after they got the depreciation deduction or the amortization deduction. So earnings आपका जो net profit, जो operating profit जो रहता है, ठीक है, earnings before interest, tax and depreciation and amortization. Okay, so interest, tax, depreciation और amortization, उसको जो बात करेंगे मतलब उसमें सिर्फ एक्सपेंस ही बात होगा। टोटल जो कंपनी ने सेल्स किया है उसमें से यू हैव टू माइनस द एक्सपेंसेस, and you will get that some amount that is your company's operating profit margin. That is the OPM ratio. And if you minus these interest, tax, and depreciation, you will get this net profit margin. Okay. It will give idea about the competitive advantage and cyclicity, and also gives the idea about the both fixed and the variable cost. Suppose one company has posted OPM of around 150 CR in one quarter, and suddenly they have posted 200 CR of OPM. So why this suddenly increase in the OPM? Either they have reduced some cost, or they have already incurred some expenses that has been counted in this segment or in this quarter, that we need to check in. So this is the PAT margin or the net profit margin that has to be calculated at the final profitability level. That is the profit after tax. So this will give idea about the overall profitability of the company, and always makes sense when is combined or the compare with these competitors. It will give idea about the leverage as well as the nature of the industry of the business model. High profit margin बहुत ज्यादा है. Might be there are some asset light companies. If we can see that is Zomato. Okay, उनके पास ज्यादा asset नहीं है. उनके पास what are the assets they have? They have only vehicles. That is only their assets. ज्यादा उनका plant machinery लगाने की जरूरत नहीं है. So these companies or the platform businesses like the CDSL or we can say BSE, और कोई भी IT सॉफ्टवेयर कंपनी ले लीजिए, अगर क्लाउड बेस हमारा इफ इन सी वन ग्लांस, ओके, सो दे हैव फिक्स एसेट कॉस्ट. एक बार उन्होंने कुछ खरीद लिया, सर्वर खरीद लिया, तो दैट इज डन फॉर देम. दे डोंट हैव टू बाय ईच एंड एवरी ईयर फॉर सम कैपेक्स और तो दे हैव बेसिकली high net profit margin. They are the asset light companies. Now this is the most important matrix in the financial, that is the return on equity. That how much money you are getting on the equity. That helps investor to assess the return the shareholder to earn for the every unit of the capital investment. So return on equity and return on capital employed, both are almost same thing, but in return on equity we don't have to consider debt portion much. कंपनी ने लीवरेज कितना लिया है, लोन कितना लिया है, या डेप्ट कितना है, उतने ज्यादा कवर नहीं करते हैं वो. ठीक है. एंड एबिलिटी टू दैट हेल्प्स टू अंडरस्टैंड द एबिलिटी टू जनरेट प्रॉफिट फ्रॉम द शेयर होल्डर इन्वेस्टमेंट. हायर ROE, that means the higher level of management performance. With the additional debt, ROE can be higher significantly compare considering the leverage on the balance sheet. ओके, सो उसका मतलब क्या होगा कि कंपनी का आरओई मान लो कि पिछले सर 10 या 12% था, नेक्स्ट 1 ईयर में सडनली बढ़ के 15 से 18% हो गया, तो सडनली व्हाई द आरओई इज इंक्रीज, दैट वी हैव टू चेक. कंपनी ने डेप्थ लिया है, ठीक है, डेप्थ भी बड़ा है, आरओई भी बड़ा है, तो दैट इज नॉट अ गुड साइन फॉर द कंपनी. सो along with the ROE, always check debt to equity ratio. Now the return on the asset, that evaluates the effectiveness of the company's to ability to use the asset to create the profit. If company is purchasing land or plant machinery for say 100 crores and they are getting revenue of say 200 crores from that asset, it is a very good thing. So return of asset will be 2 times of the multiple in this segment. So this is just a example. Now ROC is also a very good ratio to understand, and it's a better indicator for the financial performance for the companies with a significant debt. जिस कंपनी का डेप बहुत ही ज्यादा है, उनको अंडरस्टैंड करने के लिए वी हैव टू चेक द ROC as compared to the ROE, because the profitability of the company on the base of ROC is taking into consideration of the overall capital, both equity and the debt it employs. more favorable as it indicates more profit are generated per rupee of the capital employed. If company has a 15% or 25% ROCE, that means if you invest 1 rupee in that company, every 100 rupees in that company, every year you will get 25% return on your 100 rupees. So you will get 125 rupees every year. That is the basic concept or ROCE. Now, this is the some gray area is there. The low ROCE also can be strategy for the companies, mainly the basically monopoly companies, businesses, to create an entry barrier for those any other competitors. उनको पता है कि ROCE कम ही होगा तो nobody will get into the enter into the company, say into the business actually. So now, apart from this activity and the profitability ratio, now we are coming to the leverage ratio. Leverage ratio or the solvency ratio, that how much company is standing against their debt. Okay, कि company अगर मान लो कि tomorrow will say that the company is not operational, we are closing down the company, how will the shareholders will get benefited? Okay, now how can we assess that? Okay, so this is the thing, this is the interest coverage ratio. Okay, in simple language, this is interest coverage ratio is used, helps to understand that how easily company can pay it interest. Ideally, it should be more than 3. Okay, so example, as for example, if company have a ratio of 1.3 times, and for every rupee of the interest, company is generating EBIT of 1.3 times. मान लो कि कंपनी अगर 100 रुपीज इंटरेस्ट दे रही है, ठीक है, तो उसके सामने कंपनी 130 रुपीज का रेवेन्यू जनरेट कर रही है, एबिट का जनरेट कर रही है. सो दैट इज अ गुड कि कंपनी ने जितना लोन लिया है, इंटरेस्ट बढ़ रही है, उसके मुकाबले उनका रेवेन्यू काफी बढ़ रहा है. सो दैट इज द गुड. सो आइडियल रेशियो ऑफ इंटरेस्ट कवरेज रेशियो इज मोर देन 3. अगर उससे ज्यादा कम होगा, then company have might problems to pay it interest, and after that if they don't pay interest, then the profitability will decrease for sure. Now debt to equity ratio is total debt includes short term debt and long term debt or the borrowings as against the equity of the company is equal to 1, means that the company has a debt and equity same. More than 1 है, कंपनी हैज मोर डेप्ट, कंपनी ने लोन ज्यादा लिया है इक्विटी के हिसाब से. आपको मान लो कि आपके पास 100 रुपए ही है, लेकिन आपने किसी बैंक से 200 रुपए का लोन किसी से उधार ले लिया, ठीक है, आपके पास तो 100 रुपए ही, आप भरेंगे कैसे हो? ठीक है, वो भी आपको सोचना पड़ेगा ना. ठीक है, सो दिस इज अ मोर देन 1 एंड द बिगर इक्विटी बेस विद द रिस्पेक्ट टू डेप्ट एंड द लेस देन 1. सो आइडियली डेप्ट टू इक्विटी रेशियो शुड बी लेस देन 1. कंपनी का जो डेप्ट हो है वो इक्विटी से कम ही होना चाहिए. Now this is the financial leverage ratio that will give our indication to what extent the asset are supported by the equity. Okay, मतलब जितना उनका जो कंपनी ने जो भी एसेट्स बाय किया है, ठीक है, वो इक्विटी के मुकाबले कितना है. मान लो कि कंपनी के पास 100 करोड़ का इक्विटी है, ठीक है, लेकिन उनका जो एसेट है वो ज्यादा है, ठीक है, तो दैट मीन्स कि अगर ज्यादा नंबर है तो कंपनी का जो डेप्थ है और उनका जो लोन है वो भी ज्यादा रहेगा उसमें. ठीक है, एंड मोर द साइक्लिकल सेक्टर ऑफ द फ्लक्चुएशन इन द कैश फ्लो, दे हैव मोर रिस्क विद द फाइनेंशियल लीवरेज. और फाइनेंशियल लीवरेज जैसे कैलकुलेट कैसे करते हैं? एवरेज ऑफ टोटल एसेट डिवाइडेड बाय द एवरेज ऑफ टोटल इक्विटी. नाउ द करंट रेशियो. करंट रेशियो मीन्स this is the current asset divided by the current liabilities. अगर मान लो कंपनी अगर एक ही दिन में बंद हो जाती है, ठीक है, अगर करंट रेशियो ज्यादा होगा तो कंपनी हैज टू has that capability to pay all the liabilities. That is a very good thing. अगर मान लो कंपनी डिसाइड करती है कि भाई हमें ऑपरेशन नहीं करना है, वी आर गोइंग टू सेल ऑफ ऑल दीज our plant and machinery and all these things, लेकिन उनका लायबिलिटी ज्यादा रहेगा एसेट के मुकाबले, तो हाउ विल पे दिस लायबिलिटीज? ठीक है, तो कंपनी के फाइनेंशियल हेल्थ के लिए करंट रेशियो इज अ वेरी गुड थिंग. नाउ कैश रेशियो इज कैश प्लस द कैश इन इक्विवेलेंट का जो भी कंपनी के पास जो भी कैश रहेगा, बैंक बैलेंस है या फिर डे टू डे ऑपरेशंस के लिए जो भी कैश रखते हैं, ठीक है, उनके ऊपर वो कितना है. सॉरी, आई गॉट, दिस इज द करंट लायबिलिटी के मुकाबले उनका अगर कैश और एसटी का जो सिक्योरिटी है, ठीक है, एसटी का मतलब उन्होंने जो भी इन्वेस्टमेंट किया है, इक्विटी में किया है, म्यूचुअल फंड में किया है, जो भी है किया है, ठीक है, उसमें वो कितना है. अगर वो करंट लायबिलिटी से ज्यादा है तो बहुत ही अच्छा है. कंपनी का फाइनेंशियल हेल्थ इज वेरी गुड इफ कैश रेशियो इज हायर, क्विक रेशियो इज मोर एंड करंट रेशियो इज मोर. दैट इज कंक्लूड्स द लीवरेज रेशियो. सो कंपनी का एक्टिविटी का जो भी रेशियो है, दैट वे हैज बीन इंक्लूडेड. Apart from that, the profitability ratio and the leverage ratio. Amortization means depreciation of the intangible assets. अगर मान लो if we see, take example of KFC or the McDonald's, they have brand value of their name. Okay, so as soon as this आपका जो कार है, लैंड है, प्रॉपर्टी है, उसका जो डेप्रिसिएशन लगता है, same as depreciation for the intangible assets are called the amortization. Now the valuation ratio is for basically to evaluate the company whether it is a expensive or cheap. Okay, so अगर हॉस्पिटल के लिए वो ज्यादा इतना important नहीं है, so we will not go into the deeper, but those who are investing in the equity markets and all these things, they have heard this terminology like price to sales ratio, price to book value ratio, price to earning ratio, and all these things. So we will not go deeper into these things. So these includes the financial ratio analysis. So from these all these ratios, now, so these have been presented in the last year. There was a called Quantum Investing Championship in this community from this Team Surya from the Technofunda community. So now we can see that these are the metrics of the 4 different hospital chains. First is the Narayana Health, Apollo Hospital, Max Healthcare, and Fortis Healthcare. Okay, agar if we can see that there are some other ratios in the hospital segment. This is the average revenue per occupancy of bed. Okay, this is average revenue per occupancy of bed. अगर हॉस्पिटल में एक बेड भरता है तो एक बेड के ऊपर उनको कितना रेवेन्यू मिलता है, ठीक है. तो दिस इज द बेसिकली एसेस टू peers comparison among the peers. If you can see that मैक्स हेल्थ केयर का मैक्सिमम है, ठीक है, क्योंकि दे हैव अ लेसर नंबर ऑफ बेड्स. ऑपरेशनल बेड कैपेसिटी इज ओनली 3000. As compared to that, if you can see that Narayana Health has a 5000 operational bed capacity. So they are generating more revenue, but the average revenue per bed is less as compared to Max Healthcare. So if we have to see the occupancy rate also, how much occupancy they are getting? Average 60 to 70% occupancy they are getting, and this is the ROCE, ROE, and debt to equity ratio. This is what we have been looking at from the financial ratio analysis. So among these, it has seen that the maximum ROCE is we are getting from the Narayan Health. ROE is 33%. Apart from that, Apollo has a 13% and 14% of ROCE. Okay, and Fortis Healthcare is 9.8 and 7.7%. So हाउ दिस इज यूजफुल। ठीक है, तो अगर मान लो कि आपको किसी के अगर हॉस्पिटल में इन्वेस्ट करना है, ठीक है, इफ यू वांट टू इन्वेस्ट इन दिस हॉस्पिटल and if you are getting just 7% of return over the year, why to take so much of risk? You can easily invest those money into the FD and you can earn 7 to 7.5% return. Why to take risk? Okay, so this is the basic thing, that ROEC, if you are investing in any other hospital, you have to always check ROE or the ROC. अगर आपको किसी के पे हॉस्पिटल आपको एक्वायर भी करना है या फिर कहीं पे लेना है, ठीक है, या फिर आपका खुद का भी आप सेटअप शुरू करना चाहते हो, देन यू हैव टू थिंक अबाउट दैट कि हाउ मच परसेंटेज ऑफ रिटर्न यू आर गेटिंग। इफ यू आर इन्वेस्टिंग 1 lakh rupees and if you are not getting net profit of around, say, if you say 12 to 15, 12,000 or 15,000 on this invest amount of 1 lakh, it is not worth to invest in the hospitals, because less than 10% return or the less than 7% return, it is not feasible or the survivable at all, because you can get at least 7 to 7.5% on the FD also. So you have to aim for at least 7.8 to 10% or more than 10% return overall. So now I will take you through the other thing. We will see this latest investor presentation from the Narayan Rudralaya, so that you can have the idea how much these ratios are helpful and how you can have idea. So now here you see, this is the latest result they have got. This is the total operating revenue. These are the consumption, doctor expenses, employee expenses, other expenses. These are the total expenses and the other income. So EBITDA, this is the earnings before depreciation, amortization, tax, and interest. Okay, this is the tax expense. So this is the EBITDA. This is a very, now you can able to correlate the things, and this is the profit before tax, and this is the tax expense. They have paid some around 10% of taxes of 2005 million, and the total profit after tax is 1881. Okay, so now this is the total बैलेंस शीट आइटम्स में उन्होंने की आइटम्स दिए हुए हैं उन्होंने। Sorry guys, I have to just to take a call. 1 minute. Hello. So this is the total borrowings they have, 10,162 million. They have a lease liabilities. They have goodwill of 1,178. They have current investment of 5,800 millions, and they have cash and bank balance of 4,557. So if you go through all these things, you can have a very good idea how this company or hospital is getting benefit. sorry for the interruption, guys. So if you can see that they have a EBITDA and EBITDA margin of around 19.20% on the last year. Now they have 19.4%. So gradually, more or less same over the year, is a flat kind of thing. But they have widely distributed this cost structure. डॉक्टर को नर्सेस का expenses कितना परसेंट जा रहा है? What are the percentage of other expenses and consumable expenses and other manpower costs? They has been mentioned all these things. So this is the total 6 to 7 segment. They are operating in the Bangalore, Southern Peripheral, in the Mysore, Shimoga, Kolkata, Jamshedpur, Guwahati, Raipur, Mumbai, Ahmedabad in the northern side. So how much year on year revenue every year उनका revenue growth कितना हो रहा है, that has been shown. Okay. So this is the average revenue per patient from the OPD and the IPD segment. This is the average length of stay. This is the ICU occupied bed days, the patient footfalls, and all these things. Now, if we can see that this is the operating revenue has been increased 5% over the last year. Now, the business mix, if we can see that the company has a own hospital and they have getting 70% of revenue from these hospital. Specialty wise, they have distributed the revenue generation. कि cardiology, cardiac science में से they are getting 34%, from oncology they are getting 15%, from gastro science they are getting 14%. Okay, so these are all the metrics where we can see that how much company is profitable or how much company is standing amongst their peers. ROC is the return on the capital employed. आपने जितना भी कैपिटल एम्प्लॉय किया है उसके ऊपर आपको कितना रिटर्न मिल रहा है. So capital means this equity and the debt both. This is the profitability of the company taking into consideration the overall capital. If you are planning a hospital if you are planning to open up a hospital, you have some money. Okay, that is your equity. अगर आपके पास 5 लाख रुपए हैं, that is your equity. And you bought some money or take some loan from the bank. That is your equity. If we can say that you have a 5 lakh of your equity and you take 5 lakh of your loan from the bank,